I can hear the music that my roommates listen to in order to like, fall asleep and stay asleep and sleep through, and it's just it is music to ponder your orb to, if I've ever heard of such music before. Just so much orb energy. So anyway, on to the topic of this video. We get to, so I mean, the first topic is Cyrus and his power, because I don't think I covered that yet. But the main topic is going to be Ophelia and her story, as well as her powers. So I don't,
Liana,
forget to
how
talk
are
about
you
that.
feeling?
Cyrus's power is pretty
Ophelia?
interesting. You get to his out of combat power, his I forgot the term for it. It's in some of my notes. I don't trust Audacity enough to let me alt tab without it crashing like it
What am
has in
I
the
to do,
past.
Ophelia?
So I'm just gonna keep staring
Finally,
at it and keep talking
my
and hope it doesn't
focus.
crash while I'm doing those two things.
Liana,
So class
I didn't
power,
know what might happen makes me
something
so
like
scared.
that.
So angry that
It's
I feel like my
so
heart
he
might just
gets to look
burst.
at people and basically just scrutinize them, just
If
like
I break
dress
to
them
pieces
down
now,
verbally, I guess.
everyone
Just
will
like
lose hope.
Sherlock Holmes scanned them and just
I must be
I guess he
strong.
kind of is an asshole because you
And
do it
soon,
and there's a
we must
chance.
depart on the pilgrimage.
So
The rite cannot be
there are
prolonged
noble
any longer.
actions and then there
There
are
are
rogue
centuries of
actions.
tradition we must
And they're
obey.
not really portrayed as like one is
But
inherently better than the I guess it's
what
kind
if
of like
my
the
father
edgier version
behind,
of it.
without even
But
knowing his
the
limits? Ever
the
see him?
rogue version of getting information, it makes people angry. Like there's a chance it'll happen and you can only do it like 5
I
times. You
understand,
can only fuck up
Liana.
5 times
We are
and the
together
game will
in
be
this.
like, listen, you're not allowed to use your class actions anymore, like in this
But then,
town. You're gonna have to pay a lot of money to be allowed to do those class actions again. And that's one of the. It's actually one of the. It's one of the topics I'm gonna end up covering is how the class actions between noble and rogue. It's just like with noble, you have to be a certain level in order to succeed at it, but then you just auto succeed. With rogue, there's a chance you'll mess up, and then the town can get angry at you, and it's just like I'd rather just go and grind, like, and do the noble one. Like, there's no. I don't think you get different information. It's the same effect, basically.
hey,
So his is an information gathering ability in which you get backstory information on NPCs, and that's kind of what helps infer me when it comes towards Tressa and deciding if somebody should be traded with or stolen from. Because I try, to an extent, that's one of the things, right? Is, as I discussed before, the non linearity of this game and linear
yes,
games in general is another issue. Is that. So the topic was non linearity in JRPGs. Now, I do have to address the other issue with that sentence in that, well, what makes an RPG? What is role playing? Because if you're playing D&D and you start giving a speech and somebody asks you what you're doing, you'll say, "Oh, I'm role playing." But if somebody, I don't know, starts doing math and shit, crunching numbers, they don't say, "Oh, I'm role playing."
really?
Because that's
Don't
not,
you want to go
yeah,
outside?
that's not what they're doing.
Um,
JRPGs do seem to be more on the end of
hmm.
math is happening.
Oh, I know.
Math is numbers are going up. And because of that,
There's
and
something
because there's
fascinating to
magic
do
and
here.
shit, this is an RPG.
What?
I generally play games for the role playing aspect, and it's also an issue of like, well, what is role playing? As I
This way.
said,
Up
it's
here.
when you get into a character and
Where are we
dive into them
going?
and stuff. And it's to give you an idea of the sort of conversations I've had with people is so like Borderlands, right? Some people say it's an action RPG, it's an FPS
There's one
RPG or
there.
whatever. It's maybe a little bit in the later ones
Here
because you can
we are.
choose different quest endings to an extent. But
What
yeah,
is this
I'm just
place?
gonna go with I kind of try to roleplay by being like,
All the
well,
right.
if this person deserves money, I'll trade with them. If this person's sketchier, they're so well off that they just won't miss the item, I'll steal it. Sort of like a compromise in the party. Because truly, that's actually, yeah, that's we're not really playing a person, we're playing a group of people.
Beautiful.
To an extent that like the story presents it kind of like whoever is in charge, like whoever is your first
That's why I love
person
it.
you play at, the first individual you start as, they're kind of the like the party lead until you finish their story, and I guess you can swap them out for
Here,
somebody
Lily.
else.
This is for you.
And it's just
So now, won't you play with me?
in a small way I'm able to role play in this game, in which by
No.
any I try to see the point of view of other people, but I just can't see how crunching
Lily,
number, and you're
are
not
you
even crunching the
okay?
fucking number. The computer is. You're cheating at it. It's not
No,
role
I'm
playing.
not.
It's
I'm not
math being
playing.
done by a computer. That it's so much math that
Good to hear.
your human little
We're going to
brain
be
doesn't
the
want to
best
do it.
of sisters,
Though
Felix.
from what I've
Just
read, some of the
wait.
equations aren't that bad. I've seen the equations beyond like Morrowind's math, and I'm like, yeah, this is some
But
like
I'd like that
this is a
too.
lot of shit. I can
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, only a computer will be able, in a reasonable way, be able to run this stuff.
Then it
My
says,
great uncle
ooh,
once spoke
next
about
time
playing
I'll
D
teach
and
you my
D back in
favorite
the
game.
'80s and stuff, and they
Kinda?
used a computer to handle the rolling and shit. It was so fucking just unfun to handle, so they could focus on the role playing. He, I did his biography, and he just, it was so neat to hear him talk about stuff from the '80s like that. But yeah, side tangent about role playing games and what they are aside, I just his power is pretty neat. I get to learn backstories of characters, and sometimes you get little like it'll be like, oh, there's a hidden
I'm
item, or
sorry.
like you get discounts on stores for it doesn't always match up. Like it doesn't
Yes.
quite make sense why this gives me a discount at an end, but I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like mechanically, it's a benefit. Story wise, it doesn't do much. It's still nice though. I love that I can't remember if it's this episode or another one. I
What's
go
that?
back and I check on the dogs from Therion's starting story, and they all have backstories. They're employed. Like the dogs are employees, as far as I can tell. Like one of them is like, "Yeah, I miss my dog.
In that
I miss
case,
my dog husband or whatever." It's like, oh, her mate is patiently waiting over at, I don't know, Watersburg or some. All the towns are so standard fantasy names. It's both just so dorky and charming. I can't get over it. It's just the game's cute. It's just adorable. And so moving on, Ophelia and her story, as well as her power. I'll start with her story, and all of these stories are very tropey, but that's not a bad thing. These are all stories you've heard before, told in similar ways, but that doesn't. Here's the thing, right? You're gonna go to McDonald's, probably. If you're listening to this, you're probably in America. Chances are you're in like California or some shit. And you're chances are you're gonna go to McDonald's at some point within the next 12 months. And you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna get the same thing you always get. It tastes good. It, well, I mean, McDonald's is no longer cheap, but it's fast and it's food. It is fast food. And well, I wouldn't compare this to McDonald's. I I was gonna say maybe it's like Wendy's, but I've only eaten Wendy's myself once, and that was like a month ago. It gave me horrific food poisoning, and I was down for days. I've sworn off Wendy's ever since. The funniest part, I was like, I remember somebody brought me fries from there like twice before, and they were pretty delicious. And I was like, man, I could go for some fries. We went there. They fucking didn't give me fries. It was in the order. They didn't bring me the fries. They were just really. It wasn't even busy. I don't know. Maybe for the same reason as they forgot our fries and my, what do they call it, like a flurry or whatever. They're icy. They're frosty. I think it's a frosty. They also forgot the frosty, but the frosty was on the ticket, and So a person did bring out a Frosty as like a, I'm sorry, here's like an extra big Frosty, and I was like, ooh. Well, that should be the Frosty that food poisoned me, actually. Watch that be the fucking thing. But yeah, maybe the fact that they could barely handle our order of not a whole lot of stuff, really, is also tied to why I was horrifically food poisoned. Actually, yeah, my roommate ate some of those nuggies, so maybe it was the Frosty. Maybe the Frosty did me in some. I don't know. Maybe the person. I don't know. That was bad. That food poisoning. I think it was from that. I don't know what else it could have been from. I didn't eat anything else out of the ordinary. Man, I'm getting distracted. Anyway, Ophelia. She and I have something in common. Oh, actually, no. Well, she has some things in common. She has, as of now in the story, 2 dead parents. I have 4. So, yeah, Ophelia and I were on similar wavelengths. But, she currently has one dying father, and he's... So here's the thing, right? Since this is a JRPG, and so it was made in Japan, it has some Japanese values in it that differ from values in countries that aren't Japan. And in Japan, they love families as long as you're blood related. Are you adopted? That's not good in Japan. From most things, like Kazuma Kiryu from the Yakuza series or Like a Dragon, he was very much an orphan, and so people. So so the Yakuza, some people describe it as like the Japanese equivalent of the mafia, and the fact that they both end in sound probably doesn't help that. They are structured not dissimilarly, but in functionality they're a bit different, and more so different. But anyway, it's not like I said before, orphans great at being adventurers and just killers for hire. The Yakuza, I mean, it could be an adventurer, but also it could be, more so killers for hire and stuff. I hope Sega doesn't send its Yakuzas after me for saying that. But yeah, the Ophelia classic orphan story. She has her adoptive sister and adoptive dad, but because it's made by, that's the thing, right? I can't really infer because was it made by it was sold by Square Enix, I think. I don't know how much big money people bled into this or what the values were of the people, but I've heard that because of Kazuma Kiryu, he's an orphan, and then he started running an orphanage. Treating orphans like they're people, like equals to people that have living parents, not even loving ones, just parents alive as a child, yes or no, and then to an extension also adoption. You're not really a person; you're more of a second-class citizen, and if you're from what I've read, I've not been. It's just I've travel is expensive. A little bit of an apocalypse happened in 2020, and other such things, and so you're seen as a near saint if you adopt a child and then treat them like they're your child. You see, it is quite it. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, there's a lot of issues in America, and I can point them out, and I can be like, that's, this is shit. It would be nice to have healthcare and other such things. But that's one of the things where I can be like, yeah, that culture has some issues. Maybe treat orphans well. So anyway, part of Ophelia's hangups is that she is a filthy little orphan, and as a filthy little double orphan, I can relate. And she herself is very much like, oh no, he's not like my dad that's dying. This is my best friend's dad that's dying, despite the fact that they are sisters through adoption. and that is her dad. And it's the presentation. She has very low self-esteem, and it's very much a story for kids are going through such awful things, and they'll have similar feelings. And so it makes sense to have stories like this to be like, oh, you're not alone, or like, you can have these feelings and still do amazing things and be a good person. And that's one of the fundamental things about Ophelia, is that she does do amazing things and she is a good person. And the story is beautiful. It's simple and it's beautiful in its simplicity. It doesn't need to be complicated. And it's you could say it's simple and clean.